I'm just a small town boy. I'm reading lots of fantasy. I'm trying to catch up on Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, one book at a time. I've read Warbreaker, I've read the Stormlight Archives, and I just read Elantris. Elantris, I don't know. I feel like Elantris sounds like my dad, like the redneck, Southern Ohio. Elantris. You reading that, Elantris? That's what I feel like this sounds like to me. I call it Elantris. How does Sando say it? Regardless, I just read Elantris. Did I say it the same way I always said it? I'm getting confused. I just read Elantris, and it was really good. It was Brandon Sanderson's first published novel. It was the first book published in the Cosmere. It's a lot different than both Stormlight and Warbreaker in like pacing and tone, and in a lot of ways I feel like you can tell that it was his earlier work. There are some pieces that don't stand out as good as his future stuff. At the same time, I kind of dig the different vibe that you have here, where you kind of start with a very simple, basic premise, and then you just jump right into it instead of spending tons and tons of time expositing on the front side. You do get tons and tons of expositing in this book. I feel like there are pacing problems sometimes where it just feels a little slow at points. Nevertheless, it's an awesome book. I ended up still giving it 5 stars. Let's talk about why. Elantris starts off talking about how there was this magical city where there's these magical people that have super magical powers and everything's perfect. People worship them as gods. There's all these cities that spring up around this magical city. Basically, some people wake up and they find that they have magic powers. They move to this city and everything's wonderful until it wasn't. There was this massive earthquake and all of the people that were gods have become cursed, and now they have this disease known as the Sheod, which they lose all of their magic, they lose all of their beauty, the city starts crumpling, and also, while they're still kind of immortal, the people that are afflicted with the Sheod, instead of being able to heal and being like powerful, they now live forever, but their wounds never heal. So if they hurt themselves, that hurts for the rest of their existence until the pain becomes too great after building up over time and they go insane, but they still don't really die. In fact, they have this hunger for food that they can't satiate. It doesn't matter though, because they don't need hunger to live. This is like the Brandon Sanderson Fallen Gods version of zombies. Whereas before, people would get afflicted with this magical thing that would make them super powerful, they now get afflicted with the zombie disease at random, and then they throw them in the city and lock them up. My Fair Lady. Because of the disastrous events of this city that was so well renowned going to crap, there was a lot of political turmoil in all of the cities and cultures that are around Elantris. And our story starts off with the prince of the king of the city next to Elantris, who is working very hard to be a very good prince. He was setting himself up for a very good position politically to help his country. He gets afflicted by the Sheod and they freaking throw him into Elantris, and that's where we start. And so our 3 perspectives in this book are that of a noble prince, a noble princess from another nation, and a high-ranking religious, essentially paladin, who has come to this city outside of Elantris to try to convert everyone to the major religion of their culture, using any means necessary. It's almost like a Jonah setup, where if the people don't convert, they're going to basically send the massive armies in to destroy everything. Now, while there is a lot of political dealings and goings on in like the Stormlight Archive, I feel like this book actually has way more politics going on with like the noblemen and the houses and the king and the instability of everything, it's only been 10 years since the good disease went bad. The leadership is sketchy at best. There's insurrections planned. At the same time, there's like a religious hierarchy coming in to try to overturn everything and flip the city to its religion, its control, basically. And I really, really enjoyed the focus on the political scheming that went on here. That's something that I didn't even realize I liked as much as I do, which is like the political dealings of fantasy kingdoms. But it's a lot of fun here, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that it's very well developed, and the reasons and motivations for the characters are well developed, with some weird plot points thrown in as twists, some that don't necessarily always feel completely justified, but they kind of work in the long run. Now that I've read more of Brandon Sanderson's works, I feel like a major theme that goes on is he always tackles religion and religious systems very heavily. And now that I've kind of seen more of his books and the way that he tries to accomplish this task, the more I kind of start to see the commonalities in all of Brandon Sanderson's workings and thoughts on religion, at least in the way that he portrays them in his books. As you might have been able to intuit from my setup with the paladin coming to try to convert everybody through any means necessary, including force, at the threat of complete and utter annihilation from their military forces, organized religion, once again in a Brandon Sanderson work, is not viewed in a very positive light. And so we do get to experience some of the interesting conflicts that might happen with someone who is working inside of the system, as well as the ways that it affects everyone around them. We also get to see a very similar fantasy reimagining of the ideas of something where there is a central religion that then branches off lots of religions from it. Think either Protestantism, or the thing that comes to my mind more naturally is you have some of these similar events used to create the religions of like Christianity, Judaism, even Islam to some degree. Heck, even Mormonism is a branch off of those things. And we get to see the fantasy Brandon Sanderson's version of a single religion then spanning off through different teachings and different religious leaders being followed into multiple different sects that seem to spawn from the same origin point. That's really interesting, and the ways that those play into the overall scope of everything is really fun. And I thought really well done, really well thought out. That being said, I feel like if you've explored the religious theming in the later Brandon Sanderson books, then you've probably seen most of the points that this has to offer. That doesn't make it less fun to enjoy, it just makes it less novel when you're reading it in this one, though it was his first one, so you have to give it some leniency, I feel like. And while I'm talking about some things that have been done differently or better maybe in Brandon's future books, there are 3 point of view characters here. The character arcs in this book don't necessarily follow as traditional or maybe enjoyable character arcs as Brandon might develop in the future. Really only one of the 3 characters goes through a traditional arc. The other 2 mostly remain more static throughout. They still have their goals and their promises, and they change a little bit, but a lot less than you might expect for an epic fantasy novel of this size and scope. I don't want to be too negative though, because this book is still a blast. The world building and the culture building, like the politics I've already described being super awesome, but the way that all ties into the magic of the series, both in the ways that it is explained and the ways that there is still a lot of mystery, leaves the reader, me, like super excited, super happy, and finding out that there is more ideas in Brandon's head related to Elantris specifically. That's super awesome to me. It was also super crazy awesome to get to experience the climax of this book. The term Sanderlanche is one I've seen thrown around. The epic climax, the last, big section of this book, is a huge, massive combining of all the different plot threads that you've seen, all the little different breadcrumbs that you've followed, all combining into one crazy thing while still managing to surprise you with some good twists and subversions along the way. I don't feel like it's possible to read a Brandon Sanderson ending in more than one session. Like, no matter how long it is, I feel like you have to binge it. Elantris is no exception. I feel like he nailed the finale. I feel like he brought all of those plot threads together. The way that he sort of mixed all of the pieces, both the ones that he did amazing and the ones that he didn't do as strongly, still combined into a very effective explosion right at the end there. It was just, enjoyed this one a lot. Like I said, I gave this book 5 stars. It's definitely one that I would recommend you go back to if you've enjoyed the rest of the Cosmere. You will see that this does tie into the Stormlight Archive with some of the world hoppy elements. If you're interested in that, I, of course, had to basically look up wiki articles for most of those connections because I'm not some kind of super genius. I'm just the dude who likes to talk about fantasy books online. And other books too, but who am I kidding? I'm on a fantasy kick right now and I'm just going to freaking write it. But yeah, that basically boils down my thoughts. I freaking would love to see an Elantris, I said it again, dang it. Elantris sequel, frick. I'd definitely love to see more books in this shard, or whatever the frick Brandon calls his sections of the Cosmere. I loved it. I'm glad I did it. This is the Sanderson book that has taken me the longest to get through, just because I do feel like some of the pacing sections threw me off a little. Additionally, I don't necessarily recommend the audiobook unless you can't read the book any other way. I didn't vibe with the reader as much as I have with Michael Kramer with the Stormlight Archive, but I had a blast and I'm looking for more. What are your guys' thoughts on Elantris? Because I feel like Elantris and Warbreaker are both the Sanderson books that I see the most division over. Some people love one and not the other. Some people love both. A lot of people don't like both. There's a lot more mixed reviews that I see of Stormlight or Mistborn. One of my book friends, Udi, loves to draw conclusions between Warbreaker and Elantris and the way that both of these finales wrap up, him loving Elantris, while others that I've talked to love Warbreaker. I kind of love them both, though I think that Elantris nails the finale better, while I felt like Warbreaker was way more interesting in the middle sections, if that makes sense. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on Elantris? Also, now that I have finished Elantris, Warbreaker, Stormlight, it means I am able to start Mistborn next time I get into a Sanderson book that isn't related to Stormalong 2020, and I'm freaking hype. I'm so excited for Mistborn. Everyone's done nothing but praise that series for me, so I'm so excited to start it. I have no doubts that I will love it. I don't think I will love it as much as Stormlight Archive, my favorite series of all time, but heck, I'd love to be surprised, and even if I don't love it that much, but I freaking love it almost as much, it's gonna be a favorite. I am so freaking jazzed. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like on it. You could also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like this or the other random crap that I do. I'm just freaking in love with reading lately. If you'd like to get notified when I make more videos, please hit that bell, and you can change it to the all setting. You get all the notifications of when I post new videos. I love to have conversations with all of y'all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are having a great week. Until next time, I'm not your dad, but I am your best friend.
No, I never get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep. No, I never get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired. Sleep. No, I never get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep. No, I never get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired.